I've been thinking a lot about this song lately. It's now been over 20 years since it was released as part of Toy Story 2, and about that long since I heard it for the first time. But despite how many times I've heard it, whenever I play the opening 2 bars, it always sends shivers down my spine. I don't even need to hear the rest of the song to get this feeling. It's like being full with emotion. I'm saturated. When She Loved Me was written by Randy Newman for Pixar's 3rd feature film. It comes at a moment when Woody is about to leave Jessie behind, but for Jessie, there is no home to return to. In the next 3 minutes, we see a montage of her time with Emily, and the song plays out underneath, with no interruption. Musically, it's built from very simple foundations. Repeating chords in the piano accompanied by soft strings and woodwind. Newman uses chord sequences that are not only found in many love songs, but also in a lot of his other work. It begins with 4 chords: D minor, A minor first inversion, G dominant 7th with a B in the bass, and then the minor 4 chord B flat minor. These 4 chords are charged with emotion. That relationship between the minor 4 chord and the tonic is so often found in music associated with love. Remember Me from Coco, and the second movement from Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 are just 2 of many examples. But that G dominant 7th in F major is also such a key component of love songs, and also of Randy Newman's music in particular. This is known as a secondary dominant, as it's the 5 chord to the actual dominant, C major. This chord adds tenderness to the music. It can feel melancholic in some contexts and bright and uplifting in others. Just listen to it in You've Got a Friend in Me, or Almost There. Both by Randy Newman. For When She Loved Me, it serves both purposes, and when combined with the minor 4 chord, as in the opening, it provides not only harmonic complexity, but also a depth of emotion that goes way beyond what you can achieve with simple diatonic chords. Okay, so how does Newman use these chords? Part of the genius of this song is not only which chord he employs, but also how he moves between them. After the first 2 bars, we land on F major, and we hear these descending parallel 6ths in the middle parts, adding movement and life to the harmony. When we get to the first verse then, the melody takes over this 8th note idea, and the piano plays block chords: F major, G minor 7, F major first inversion, and so on. It's really simple. Newman is sticking to clean harmony here, all built on top of this stepwise bass line, moving mostly in tones or semitones at a time. There are 2 key harmonic moments though in this opening phrase. First, when the bass line moves to the B natural, giving us the same secondary dominant that we heard in the opening. And the other is when the B natural reverts to a B flat on the downbeat of the next bar. From C major, we hear this half diminished chord, E minor 7 flat 5. This is an unsettled chord and wants to be resolved. And so Newman does this by moving into D minor via A major, allowing the music to return again into F major. Within the simple harmony of this opening verse, we get these small pockets of complexity, of tension and release. And this is why it feels so emotional. It's not clean. It's not perfect. It's just the right amount of imperfection. So, on top of this sits the melody. The tune, guided by Sarah McLachlan's beautiful performance of the song, feels tied to the piano part. Each grouping of chords is accompanied by a phrase in the melody, feeling like a breath in and out, and like the music is all one single living thing.
Happy souls are when
This definitely comes from Randy Newman's approach to writing the song, which we can get an insight into from his demo version. The melody for Newman flows from the piano part, giving it this really natural, organic feel. And the lyrics then sit, mostly syllabically, on top of the melody, with the tune rarely straying away from the notes in the chords underneath. In this respect, the song is quite like a nursery rhyme, not in that the tune or the lyrics are simple, but that they evoke a childlike simplicity, an innocence. And after all, that is what Jessie is trying to recall, a time when things were better, when things were easier, more innocent. In the first two verses, she speaks of the time she and Emily shared together, and the music similarly speaks of something simple and unclouded. In the second verse, we move into B-flat major, the subdominant. And Newman continues the parallel thirds in between the melody and the accompaniment, two lines like two people, interconnected. Although we get, like in verse 1, some dissonant, more complex harmony, it always resolves, as it has done before, very quickly back into F major. It's only really when we get into verse 3 that the harmonic language of the song begins to radically change. At the end of the second verse, we get a sudden introduction of E and D flats. Recalling the B-flat minor chord that we heard in the introduction, this establishes a new tone in the song. On top of a chromatically descending bass line, we now get some much more adventurous harmony, borrowed chords, modal interchange, and diminished harmony. As Jessie talks about Emily drifting away, the harmony also drifts away from F major. The first half ends in D minor, but this moves, again via a chromatically descending bass line, into an E-flat minor tonality. We then hear again the descending parallel sixth, and it lands on a very dissonant chord, A-flat minor over a C natural, which resolves via beautiful voice leading into C dominant seventh. The music might have resolved here, but the story hasn't. In verse 4, we move back into the opening idea, but now it feels completely different, changed by the complex and disjointed language of the middle section. Now this simple music feels bittersweet, and the more dissonant harmony even more pained. We, like Jessie, have been changed by the story, changed by the musical journey that the song has taken us on. Music has a way of telling a story unlike anything else. Randy Newman's choice of musical language says something that words never could. It creates nuance, allows a more complex tale to be told, and gives us a chance to feel, to really experience the emotion. When She Loved Me might on the surface be about the relationship between a toy and her child, but for me and for so many people, it's about much more. It's about the connection two people can share, between friends, between mother and son, between husband and wife, between anyone, and the grief caused by losing the person you love. We've all been through a period where we've had time to think, to reflect, and to consider what is really important in our lives, and to consider our relationship with time and what we do with it. I think the answer to this conundrum of why music really does matter lies in the strange rapport music makes between time and love. If you are lucky enough to be a parent or to fall in love, then your experience of time changes. It's not that time stands still, far from it, nor that you lose track of it in a whirl of excitement. Rather, time thickens and you become aware of its granularity, as if it were under a microscope. You cherish every moment. And I think what most people would conclude after all of this is that it's not work or things or money, but other people that you cherish. You cherish them because you're human. This music makes me think about all the people in my life and how much they mean to me. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Thank you for watching.